anywhere you go, it's tightly controlled by the state so that the packaging and labeling
Yes.
and so the consumer can know what they're buying, and that the regulators can know what's being distributed and track it right down to the plant that it was grown to. So
Absolutely.
so that's my understanding is, I'm not an expert, is that it would be true for both medical or medical and recreational use, that would be controlled distribution.
I would think so.
Like
Yeah.
alcohol.
Jesse's nodding.
Yeah,
Do you have
that's the
something
case.
to add to that, sir?
And there's actually going to be a transition period in this case where the initial locations, the actual full implementation, I think, isn't until 2018. But so in that transition period, people will need to go to dispensaries. Yeah. The medical dispensaries currently, they will have sort of the first swing at that ball. So people will still have to go through that system. But once that's complete, then it'll probably be more of a recreational type setup. But yes, it will be very strictly controlled. But basically, they like to call it a seed to sale. So they actually track from every plant. I worked adjacent to a cultivation center in Cottonwood, and they basically barcode or track with tracking numbers everything from the cut of the cut of the sapling, or the little genetic clone, all the way through to the delivery of where people get it. So they can follow that all the way back. And that really is a key here where, the testing, black market guys don't test, so there's a lot of things where the prohibitionists have now, their new thing is that, it's so potent, the stuff is so strong. Well, it's like, the only way you can really know that is to test it. So if you really want to get it tested, you need to have it done in a controlled environment. So that's kind of a key thing.
Michael had something to add?
Well, I was going to point out that there's two different initiatives, but they both are changing the business model in adult use cannabis the same way. For those of you who don't know, I'm the state director of NORML, Michael Weiser. I'm the guy that's been passing around those handouts. Here's some cards on that. But currently, marijuana is controlled through the medical marijuana dispensaries, but under both of these new licensing structures, they're going to expand it to where there'll be about 150 retail outlets, but individuals will be able to get involved in it, including folks that can take on the business of doing the testing that Jesse was just talking about.
Excellent. Well, thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah, so everything's coming around. As we work towards regulating, we'll work towards having more standards, and we'll have more good information. But yes, they do a great job at AZDHS of tracking every little bit. Unfortunately, the packages aren't always, the doses are supposed to be good. We've had a couple things be a little off. You have to be a little careful still, but when we get federal regulation, that's what I'm looking forward to, honestly, is that we have a real set of standards where everybody has to, that everyone has to uphold. And also, we'll be putting our police back to work fighting real crime.
Yeah, I read a
That's
stat
another good
that
thing.
Colorado marijuana arrests were down 95%.
Good.
So
Well, that's outstanding.
99% in Washington, D.C. 99%.
No, that's so many, it's 99% of lives that aren't being messed with for a nonviolent crime. It's very, very important.
I wish
Yes,
some
sir.
of our politicians in D.C. would get stoned. I think would help things out.
Yeah, it absolutely would, absolutely, I believe it would.
What
Yes,
if
sir.
you've already been, what if you already have marijuana felonies, misdemeanors? Is there any talk about
There is not at this time.
screwed? Yeah.
There is
You
not
gotta
at
know
this
Obama,
time.
then you can just get pardoned, right?
I'm hoping Obama is going to pardon a lot of
He just
people,
hands
a lot of
them-
nonviolent criminals. That's, we got our fingers crossed.
Well, we did see that this last year, Oregon, the state legislature has started into what's called post-conviction relief, giving people an opportunity to expunge their records if they were convicted of crimes that are now legal in the state. And that's probably the way that things will go across the country as society realizes that we've been burdened with undue prohibition for the last 100 years.
I think
For a
literally
long time.
60,000 people who were non-violent offenders were let out of prisons into treatment and highly regulated counseling programs at the federal level. And
This is true.
there's a new,
Yes,
I think,
at
a
the
drug,
federal
he doesn't
level.
like to be called the drug czar, but whoever the head drug guy is, he's a new guy and very much in favor of decriminalization and undoing the legal mess of war and.
Thank goodness, and he's absolutely correct, yes, no, I forgot to mention that on a federal level, they did release nonviolent criminals, how many?
It was a lot.
It was a
It was a
lot.
step in the
There
right
were-
direction, because you know, we have the largest prison population in the.
We certainly
for-profit.
do, we certainly do, and that's, boy, that's another problem of its own. So basically, we're almost to the end of this part of the presentation, then we will take that break, I promised you. We're here till about 2, if you guys are able to stay with us, I hope you are. What I want you to do is just kind of rethink what you thought about cannabis. We can take our health back into our own hands, we can save lives from overdose, we can make this a legal substance, because some people won't try this until it's legal. They don't want that stigma of an illegal substance, and I don't blame them. Because some who would benefit cannot afford a medical card. They just can't afford a medical card. And they won't try it because of that. And because the National Institute of Health says it's 114 times safer than alcohol. So, you know, it's one of those substances we need to really revisit. Cannabis may not be for everyone, but using it should not be a crime. So I do encourage you guys to support the campaign, Regulate Marijuana in Arizona.org. I am not affiliated with the campaign, but I operate in support as a volunteer of the campaign to regulate marijuana in 2016.
I have a question about the
Yes.
medical. So I can get CBD on Amazon without the investment of the card. What is the advantage of getting the medical card and getting access to more products?
Yes. Now, what it is, the CBD hemp oil, it doesn't go nearly as far as the medicine in cannabis.
Okay.
So when you use the CBD hemp oil, it's a dietary supplement that actually speaks to that endocannabinoid system that we were talking about, and it just kind of quiets everything. It's got inflammatory in it, but it's a daily thing that takes about a week or 2 to start working. And then you feel these effects. You don't feel any high at all. You just feel little aches and pains start to leave. These are the reports that I've heard from the folks I've been working with and listening to. It is, gosh, it's about $20, I think, online on Amazon. Again, it is legal, but the advantage of getting your card, if you're considering, my feeling is this is a way for you to try it, but it doesn't have nearly the effects that medical cannabis with the card does from the female, or I'm sorry, it's both plants, but it's the medicinal plant. And that's the one you need a card for that has the THC, because the combination of the THC and the CBD seem to be the one that really are working and doing the medical value that we want done. Your hand up over here, sir. Did you have
I was
anything
going to
add?
point out that in addition to the cannabinoid chemicals in marijuana, there's another set of therapeutic chemicals called the terpenes. And when you get a CBD only product, you don't get any of those terpenes. And then she had pointed out that really they find that if you're doing a CBD driven therapy, having at least about 3% THC in it tremendously increases the impact.
It's that combination, yeah, that really works it. Now,
I have a question.
yes.
What is the pharmaceutical companies thinking about all this, and our drug companies? Are they fighting it?
Of course.
You know, I think they're-
I mean, that's a huge obstacle.
It's actually, that's the money I was talking about before. We've just got to, everybody's got to figure out, the ones with the money, the most money, need to figure out how we're going to make this happen. And, you know, some of them are getting in on it, like GW Pharmaceutical, they're in the UK, and I think is GW doing stuff in the United States now as well, or are they still just overseas? But GW Pharmaceutical is one of the main pharmaceutical companies that I saw on the patents that's actually experimenting and doing this.
I mean, just the transition. I work in the health industry, and they, you know, it's like.
Exactly. Anybody that's in the health industry, a lot of times you'll come up with a block, but a lot of times you'll just come up with people that want to do good and they want to pass this on. But for the most part, anybody
Well, the
that's...
people that are wanting it,
and
you know, they're seeing their loved ones full of morphine and everything else, and would like another alternative, and there's just
that's it.
a wall there.
We've seen so much of that and in the last few years, but it's coming around, and education is the key.
Right.
And that's why I'm out here, and I'm encouraging others to do the same. Because the more we talk about this, the more we'll get this done, and we'll get this passed. we can get to the good research, that we can cure some of these, or at least alleviate some of these conditions that we have.
And people like you and that kind of education, is a lot of that going on?
I'd like to see
Or-
more of it, the more of it,
You know, until I ran into
Jesse's
you,
doing a
you
little,
know.
Jesse's doing a little behind you,
Right.
you know.
And
but
I
just-
met you at Cottonwood at Chamber of Commerce meeting, which I thought was absolutely incredible, that it was there. You know, I thought that was a great breakthrough. I
Well,
thought that was a great breakthrough.
He did
Made
an
my
amazing
day.
job at the
Yeah.
Cottonwood, yes, thank you, Jesse, oh my gosh. But the more of us that stand up, and that's what, honestly, what this end slide is about, well, it's the next to the end, Mom Force AZ encourages regular citizens like yourself
Right.
to stand up and speak out for the change we wish to see in our society. Because we have far more power than we know, we just need to use it. You need to make those calls. You need to call your congressman. You don't think it's going to mean anything. You don't think it's going to call your councilman. And tell them what you think. Because these calls from you as a citizen, from you as a constituent, mean so much. If, 5 people call them, it rattles them. It's like, oh my gosh, the world's coming down. I've got to, because then they know that the citizens are thinking about it. Somebody's passionate enough to pick up a phone and say, hey, we need to end cannabis prohibition. This is ridiculous. Do you know about all this good information? Well, I'm encouraging you guys to do that, because we must never be fearful about what you're doing, and it's right. From Miss Rosa Parks, who stood up and wouldn't stand up. She stood up by not standing up. My work is dedicated to my dad and all the good people who would be alive today if not for alcohol or drugs. I thank you for joining us today. We are going to be here till 2 o'clock, but I'm going to let you guys get up, stretch your legs. If you want to use the restroom, we'll come back. We'll do some medical testimonies. If any of you would like to tell your story, you can tell it on film, or you can tell it just to us and just talk about what's happening. Because the more of us that stand up and speak up, the more we can get this information out there. I put things on YouTube. I put testimonies on YouTube of just regular people that have had a great experience with medical cannabis, so that others can hear this information and they can know. So if you'd like to do that, we're going to take a break for, I don't know, about 10 minutes. Go and, enjoy, and thank you,
Thank you.
for coming to the presentation. I'll see you back.